Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this digital and social media discussion panel presented by the College Athletics Internet Digital Association. My name is Derek Dockett, Associate Commissioner for New Media and Technology at the Missouri Valley Conference, and I'm very excited about the panel that we've been able to put together to share some of their thoughts and insight on digital media and how it interacts with sports, college, and in one of our panelists' case, professional. Before we do get started in meeting our panel, I do want to address a few housekeeping items. This Hangout's meant to be interactive. If you do have questions, feel free, shoot them through the Q&A tool that's built into the Hangout. And also, feel free to tweet me, easy for me to say, at @ddockett, and I'll do my best to weave them in our conversation as we go along here. With that in mind, I guess it's time to meet our panelists. So, ladies first here. So, Katie, if you would mind getting us started.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Cavender. I am the Assistant Commissioner for Strategic Communications at the Mountain West Conference, finishing my 7th year here. I'm originally from Elko, Nevada, and did my undergraduate studies at the University of Nevada, where I was a journalism major and minored in marketing, and spent most of my undergraduate time working in the athletic department there, from marketing and sports information to facilities and equipment and ticketing, and really got to know the business there, and kind of made me addicted to it a little bit. So after I graduated in 2005, I went on immediately from there and interned for the then Pac-10 conference for a year as a public relations intern, and got to learn the conference side of the business, which kind of fueled that fire in me. To learn how things work and from another perspective in the industry. From there, I spent a year at Boise State working in facilities and game operations, and then I shifted my focus into my academic studies and went to the University of Washington for their intercollegiate athletic leadership graduate program. And while I was studying there, I actually was hired by the Mountain West. I was searching for internships or a GA position and found a full-time role with the Mountain West, which was then as their webmaster and as an assistant SID here. And that was in August of 2007, and that was before social really hit, digital really hit the space. Things were much more traditional back then, even though that was only 7 years ago. And so my role here has greatly evolved from overseeing our website to expanding to social and mobile, and getting even further now into broadcasting with the Mountain West Network that is going into its 2nd year here. So really excited about being here. Thanks to Derek for inviting me on, and to CAIDA for that too, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the other panelists. So I'll turn it over back to you, Derek.
All right. Katie, thank you so much, and I wanted to point out, congratulations. I noticed the very strategically placed trophy behind you. Congratulations on your newly acquired hardware there. We'll get into that a little bit later as we talk about video. Caleb, go ahead, sir.
Hi, Caleb Clark, Assistant Director of Marketing at UC Irvine. Not as extensive of a background as Katie. I just finished my graduate studies about a year and a half ago. I did my undergrad and grad at the University of Akron. I was a marketing GA at Akron, and then I've just finished my first year. So I think today is actually the anniversary of my first year at UC Irvine. But I do kind of a mixture of a marketing role and then a social digital media role here as well.
All right, very good. Jeramie, you're next.
Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me. I am in my office right now at US Airways Center, and my wall right here backs up to the lower bowl, kind of a club area, and Lady Gaga is getting ready to go on stage.
Oh my.
Why are we not doing the hangout there?
Yeah, I should take the camera out there. There'd be some interesting sights for sure. I hear them, they're practicing or something. My wall is vibrating, so hopefully you guys can hear me.
We got you loud and clear.
Good deal. So I'm Jeramie McPeek. I'm the Vice President of Digital for the Phoenix Suns. I oversee all of our websites, social media, and mobile applications. And I have a talented team of 10 people in my department, and so they really make me look good, and they should probably all be sitting here with me talking about digital along with me. But I think Caleb just mentioned he finished his first year there, and I'm getting ready to finish my, or actually getting ready to enter my 23rd. So I've been with the Suns a long time. I arrived probably about 3 or 4 months after Charles Barkley in 1992 at a pretty exciting time for us with our franchise. and was a sports journalism major at Arizona State. Thought I wanted to be a sports writer. And of course, when I entered the NBA, that was before the internet was even around, amazingly. So that shows you how old I am. We didn't have email, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet. And I still remember our PR director got the memo faxed from the NBA explaining that they were launching this portal on the information superhighway, and each team was going to be responsible for a page of that. And she kind of read it over, and I was in her office at the time, and she handed it off to me and said, I don't know what this is. Why don't you do it? And to be honest, I didn't know what it was either. So I've kind of grown up, I guess, with websites and with digital, and really love the fact that every couple of years, 2 or 3 years, we're doing something new. First it was websites, then it was video, then it was live video, then it was social, now it's mobile. So that's, I guess, the reason I've really stuck around is that it's a lot of fun, and it's been fun to kind of grow and see all these new opportunities to connect with our fan base.
All right, thank you very much for joining us, sir. And finally, Kelly, go for it.
I'm Kelly Mosier. I've been at Nebraska for going on 32 years now, but with the athletic department for about 10. Born and raised here, small town in Nebraska. I grew up a Husker fan my whole life. Majored in journalism, particularly broadcasting as an undergrad at the university here. Finished up with that. While I was doing that, I was a student intern for our video production department, Husker Vision. And then upon graduation, got a full-time job and moved on that direction. Did that for a few years. Started working on my master's degree, and about the time when social media became a big deal, so I did a little bit of a career pivot from video production and documentary filmmaking to more of social media and digital media. For my master's degree, I did a thesis on Twitter and social media communities and all that stuff, and then got brought over to kind of help spearhead all of our digital efforts at the university. Been doing that for about 3 years now. The athletic department, we're growing and learning more every day. There's about 4 of us full time who do it, but there's a team of 20 to 25 people who are putting work into the website or content that's going out on the web pretty much every day. So just like everybody else said, thanks for having me on, Derek. I don't know what I'm doing here, but you know what? We'll have some fun.
That is the goal, is just so we can have some fun and learn from each other. Again, thank you to everyone for joining us. And for those that did not see us at the very beginning, I want to reiterate, if you do have questions, by all means, use the Q&A tool. We will try and answer the questions, leave them in our conversation. And also, you can just shoot me a tweet at ddocket, as you can see on your screen, and we will throw those into the conversation. So, well, let's go ahead and get started, gang. I guess let's just start right at the top. We all use Twitter. We all have Twitter accounts, and we all manage them for teams or programs or conferences or whatever it might be. I guess on a very basic level, and I'll start, Caleb, we'll just go down the line, give everyone an opportunity to answer here. Can you just sort of give a general background, a general strategy of how you approach Twitter for your department or for your teams?
All right. So at UC Irvine, we have 9 Twitter accounts. We have a main athletics account, and then we have our 7 ticketed sports that all get a Twitter account, and then our mascot, Peter the Anteater.
Mascot's important.
Yeah, the mascots are our voice. So basically, sport content comes out of the sport Twitter accounts first, and we kind of use the athletics one as like a retweet hub for people to pick up on those other sports. But basically, the one that's most conversational, and we're conversational with all of our accounts, but Peter the Anteater is the one that we kind of like ingrain what UC Irvine athletics is to people. So we search out people and we actually talk to them. So I'd say Peter's account kind of 90-10 communication to somebody versus mass communication to everyone. But that's kind of our I guess formula for Twitter is we're more conversational than broadcast.
All right. What's the Phoenix Suns do, Jeramie?
Well, I just gave a presentation last month and gave a full hour on our social media strategy, and in particular, kind of 10 ways that we use Twitter. So Trying to boil that down here into a minute might be a little tough, but
Sure.
we really have a lot of different objectives with Twitter and all our social channels, and I think first and foremost, we really try to entertain our fans. Sports and basketball in particular is all about entertainment. That's why people follow us and pay attention to us and watch our games. So we really try to use our social channels to enhance that and take it to another level and have fun with it, whether it's celebrating the team and pushing out great highlights and dramatic wins, kind of celebrating that with our fans, or just having fun and doing kind of goofy things. If you follow our account, the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've really been active with the hashtag game, we're calling it, and pushing out fun hashtags like NBA sitcoms or NBA movies or NBA vegetables, and then getting other teams and fans involved with coming up with creative names for what those movies would be if it was about the NBA or a sitcom about the NBA. We push out a lot of infographics. We use social to push out a lot of information about the team. Obviously, it's a great communication channel. But really, we try to use our social channels and Twitter in particular to interact with our fans, to ask them questions, get feedback from them. It's really a giant focus group, and respond to fans as well and make them feel appreciated and take the time to thank them, whether it's picking a fan for a random prize, random act of orange, and giving them a pair of tickets to a game or an autographed hat, or just thanking them for the photo they posted of their son or the daughter or even dog or cat in son's clothes, and just letting them know how much we appreciate their support, because we think that extra touch point really goes a long way for our fans if they recognize that we appreciate them and show that love back to them through social.
All right. Katie, what's the approach from a conference standpoint for you?
So we have 4 main Twitter feeds, and I guess a 5th if you consider Jesse Kurtz, who's the host of the Mountain West Network. He's got a feed that he manages as well, but that's kind of a combo managed by the conference office, and then he takes care of a bunch of that himself. But the 4 main ones, we've got at Mountain West. It's a general news, conference, business place, and then it's also where we focus on Mountain West football. Where we try to build camaraderie with all of our institutions and really brand Mountain West football. We've got a men's basketball specific feed and a women's basketball specific feed, and then we've got an Olympic sports feed that all of the 15 other sports, excuse me, I'm trying to do my math on the fly. It seems like it changes all the time. Kind of get fallen under that bucket, and our approach is really to build awareness, to educate. As many of you out there may know, the Mountain West has kind of been in the middle of all of the conference realignment that's taken over our industry in the past years. It's actually been a summer where we haven't had teams come or go, which has been fantastic. So really in building the Mountain West brand and building some engagement and camaraderie across the league, we've got a great amount of geography that we've got to cover, from the folks in the mountain time zone across the Front Range and Air Force, Colorado State, Wyoming, and New Mexico, and then all the way, if we're talking about football specifically, all the way out to the University of Hawaii. So really building conversation throughout contests and throughout the week, building awareness, but also engaging the fans too, because I'm always been of the mindset that it needs to be two-way conversation as opposed to one-way fire hose just feeding information to folks. Social media has been built for that, and sports fans yearn that. They want that information that way. So, and they want to have the advocacy and the ownership of it. So, it's the perfect tool for us to be able to do that. So that's kind of how we approach it.
All right, Kelly, you want to wrap us up on how you guys approach Twitter at Nebraska?
Sure, absolutely. So, Caleb kind of mentioned this earlier, but from a school perspective, it's a little bit of a different beast as a university, because we just have so many sports and so many accounts that we have to cover that do make it a little bit of a challenge. I can't tell you off the top of my head how many Twitter accounts we have, but I know we have roughly in the 45 neighborhood range for social accounts that for all of our sports. That's not counting coaches and other accounts. And I know that every sport that has a social media account has at least a Twitter account. They don't all necessarily have an Instagram account or a Facebook account, but they all do have a Twitter account. So with 23 sports, you can do the math, and that's that's a pretty big undertaking. We do have our primary account at Huskers is our somewhat of an umbrella account that we kind of bounce around and is the one that I can probably speak the most to. The rest we use mainly as general informational tools and as a little bit of a listening device and engagement device. But at Huskers is really the primary one that we use to kind of scale through our different events and bounce around. And the way I always look at it is our Twitter account, it should be the voice of the fan. We're just a super fan. We're the biggest Husker fan you're going to be able to find. And who's keyed into the information, keyed into the action, and keyed into all that stuff. So from a voice perspective,
is that the Twitter bird?
I think that's what I said. I think the Twitter mascot's like talking to you out there.
So I mean, it's from that aspect. That's how we handle that. Everybody else has mentioned too. It's social media is such a great listening tool, and Twitter is really the heartbeat of social media. It's how you get a grasp for what's going on in the country. It's how you get a grasp for what's going on in sports and within your different community segments. So we use it as a listening tool every day, every minute. It consumes my life most of the time, just keeping track on what's going on and just making sure that we are a brand that's aware, because I think that's the most important thing in this social media age, is just to make sure that your brand has some sort of self-awareness of itself and is able to be, whether that's self-deprecating, pound your chest a little bit, whatever the mood calls for, to be able to do that as a personality would. And Twitter's the platform that's best suited for hearing that information.
All right. We do have our very first question that has come in via Twitter. I do want to throw that out there, and any of you guys can feel free to jump in and answer this. The question is, what are some of the tools, or how do you guys measure Twitter engagement? I don't know if that ranges from traction, the eyeballs people get to it, but can you guys talk a little about how you measure Twitter engagement for your platforms?
Yeah, I'll start at Twitter. They just rolled out brand new analytics just a couple weeks ago, and they were life-changing, to say the least. A lot of the things that they rolled out in the new analytics, like impressions for tweets, a lot of the information that I'm able to glean from it now is stuff I'd kind of assumed, but it's just good to get the numbers from it. As far as what I personally track, I kind of take a micro and a macro view of things. I look for what I call mini wins. So anytime we have a one-to-one interaction with someone, whether it's a positive or a negative, trying to figure out a way that we can win that or get some sort of positive engagement out of that. And that's kind of my micro level tracker. And it's nothing official. It's just kind of a feel thing. From the macro level, it's all about, to me, it's about engagements, replies, and engagement rate, which is one of the new great Twitter analytics that they rolled out in the baked-in analytics, to see who's actually engaging with your content, whether it's multimedia, who's replying to you, who's sharing it. That's really the core of it.
Anybody else have thoughts on how you some tools you use to measure Twitter engagement?
I would add to that. We actually were just looking at the new analytics dashboard today. Greg Esposito on my staff, I got to give him a shout out at Espo. He kind of handles our main son's account day to day and does an amazing job with it. He was just today looking at the analytics and really looking at the impressions and results from those hashtag games I've been talking about, and kind of sharing those with the NBA as they had noticed, obviously, the amount of fans getting involved in that across the league. And that was actually has been the #1 worldwide trending topic 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks, just this random kind of fun hashtag game. So we definitely take a close look at that. We also had a partnership this past Sun season with Nielsen and their new Nielsen Twitter TV ratings through their social guide platform, and that was pretty interesting to take a look at how much engagement we had specifically on game nights during our kind of TV broadcasts, and be able to look at those compared to the opponent we were playing to see if more often than not, more fans were tweeting about our team and our players and using our hashtags than the opponents, and that was really insightful for us. So we're constantly looking at those and looking at whatever we can to try and measure, like Kelly said, try to find those wins wherever we can.
Hey, Jeramie, I have a question for you. Was that Nielsen partnership something that was organization specific, or was that a league-wide initiative?
No, that was specific. The Phoenix Suns
Okay.
had a partnership with Nielsen last season.
Nice. Very good.
All right.
Yes, I mean those sorts of analytics like that are awesome. I was talking about the free ones, and if they don't necessarily have to be super expensive to get those sorts of things like that too. You can find some tools that will help you track a lot of that conversational stuff for relatively cheap as well.
Sure.
Another one that we just started experimenting with, we were on the beta testing program they were Mass Relevance, now they're Spreadfast kind of merged. They have a product called Spark that allows you to create buckets of social content where you can track different conversation topics, hashtags, accounts, followers of certain accounts, stuff like that, and give you some of that very similar real-time conversational analytics like Jeramie was talking about. That stuff is very, very, very insightful.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I guess I'll move on to a question I received earlier today. We talk about Twitter, and some of us have multiple accounts, and managing those can sometimes be a challenge. The question is, how do you balance having a presence on a lot of channels with the workload of providing good content for all of them?
That is a great question.
And I'm not sure any of us have mastered that.
I know that we haven't. We at one point really wanted to be everywhere we possibly could be and be on every single channel. And it didn't take us long to realize that we were spreading ourselves too thin, and we weren't necessarily making as big an impact as we could anywhere because we were trying to do everything at once. So we really have kind of scaled that back a little bit and are really focused on the big three: Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for us this last year or two.
Yeah, Derek, I would tell you too, like from a conference perspective, you may be like I am and be overly ambitious about, hey, there's all these great platforms and there's all these super cool things we can do, but then when you really think about the strategies to deploy that, it doesn't seem to make sense sometimes from a conference level as opposed to someone who's deep ingrained within a team or a specific coach or an athlete. So we've kind of honed in on those big three too, and have kind of tried to explore some others, but those tend to be the most successful for us. And given the limited resources that we've got now as an FBS conference, but one of the smaller ones, just trying to focus our efforts on those that have paid the most dividends.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I've actually went out and secured the names of a lot of the popular social media accounts, and including some of the not so popular, the touts and the other pages of the world, and had ambition of using it. Like, oh, this is cool. You can share this kind of content in this sort of fashion, and then it sort of just fades away, and it pops back up, and it fades away. And that's sort of what that platform was. That's what Pinterest kind of sort of was, and I still linger around there. But I guess from my standpoint, and this is, I'm curious how you guys will react to this. I'm in a situation where I am one person managing social media from a conference perspective. Katie, I know we talk about it all the time.
Every day.
Where I'm managing. Now, I don't have as many Twitter accounts, and I keep that on purpose because I don't want to overload myself with managing things. I want to keep a clear, consistent voice, and I also want to be sure that I'm hitting as many people as possible without spreading myself too thin, because I would drive myself crazy trying to manage a sport account from a conference standpoint for all of our 15, 16 sports, 18 championships, whatever it might be. So I've limited myself on Twitter. We have one main account on Twitter, MEC Sports, and then we have a basketball-specific account. And we keep that, from our standpoint, that's our revenue sport, and we're on TV a lot for basketball. So those just make sense for us. But I really utilize hashtags the most for our perspective, because we're able to really sort of create conversation around it with the hashtag, but at the same time sort of give people that might only be interested, which I know there are people that are interested in only volleyball, but maybe they see the story about a soccer team that upset the number 2 team in the country. We try and have sort of a conference pride thing happen, which does tend to happen every once in a while for us, which is a good thing. But again, it's also for my own sanity, I'll admit, of making sure that I don't spread myself too thin and letting another platform go dormant because I'm focusing on another one too much. But I do, like Jeramie said, focus on the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram. Those are my main go-tos and are obviously our most popular. Facebook for us is the original, and curious, we'll get into Facebook a little bit from now, but how you guys react to what people say about Facebook's analytics and statistics of it ebb and flowing, it's hot, it's not, but I still focus on it. It's not going away until, who knows when. I mean, it's a public company, so it's probably not going to go away anytime soon. So that's one of the things to keep in mind of Facebook's lifespan. So yeah, that's sort of my point of view, and that dovetails into a question that someone asked how I handle it from Missouri Valley Conference perspective, is trying to be consistent on the main 3 and then doing what I can as a value add on others as I can see it. So I do some things on Pinterest that are pretty cool, create a fake Sports Illustrated cover, a week in review. I'll have to throw that up here if I can get the showcase tool to work. But I try and focus on the main 3 from our standpoint, because it just can get a little overwhelming and challenging to spread yourself too thin, and no one wants to do that. So
yeah, I think the desire is always to be, first on the block on a new tool, new social media. But I think you all just, you hit the nail on the head there. It's about being able to scale out to the different platforms when it's appropriate to, and being prepared to do that. Social media is all about being agile. It's about being ready and prepared to move in a direction you need to move in, wherever that may be. And that's the same approach we take. We try to get in early on social media platforms when we can, but that doesn't mean we're going to use it.
Right.
We're just there just in case our fan base moves there, and once it kind of reaches that threshold where it makes sense for us to move that way.
Sure. Caleb, you've been quiet, but we have a question specifically for you. This one's putting you on the spot. So the question comes from Chris Syme, and she wants to know how your social media central hub is working and what kind of benefits you've seen from it.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar with our social media hub, we call it Zotcom. Zot is the noise an anteater makes when it eats an ant, so that's where the name came from. But we have a hub in our office where it's 3 large TVs and then 3 computer workstations, and we run a social media internship. So we have undergrad interns that kind of come in and help us out. So we have 6, and basically what their role is mainly is to run the Peter Twitter account and to interact with students their own age, kind of that one-to-one communication with Peter. And then what we'll have them do is like present to us some special ideas that they might have per quarter, and put those to use. So it's definitely a good tool for us because it helps. In the last question we were talking about spreading ourselves too thin. It gives me an extra hand to be able to have somebody else do that workflow. And then for them, it really shows them what the industry really is turning into, and it gives them kind of a firsthand. They get to use these tools that we're using and learn the business that way. So it's great for us. We have a couple kids in over the summer, and they seem excited to get going for my year 2. So hopefully we can expand on that this year.
All right,
that's awesome.
Caleb, was this your first year with students helping out with that, or have you?
No, this was year 2. But this was my first year kind of leading those guys.
All right, I guess I want to move on to the next topic, Snapchat. There's been a lot of debate and a lot of interesting conversation regarding Snapchat and how teams and how the sports world has adopted to it. Obviously, there's a lot of NFL teams, a lot of professional teams, and Jeramie, I'll let you go first on this. Are you guys using it? If you're not, why not? And if you are, what was the decision-making process behind it, and how do you measure success? So I guess the first question is, are you guys using it?
We're not. We're not as of yet. I was kind of already in that mindset, like I talked about earlier, of really trying to focus on our big 3 and not necessarily jump onto every other platform that was popping up because we had been on so many different ones. We had pages on Google Plus, Tumblr, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Tout, Telly, and really,
no, MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace way back when, not in a long time, but and we just really decided we weren't getting a whole lot of results out of almost any of those. And initially, my thought with Snapchat was it was an awful lot like Instagram in terms of posting photos, but the fact that they disappeared made me think it wasn't going to really catch on, and it was more of a thing maybe for teenagers to pass goofy photos back and forth. But having said that, I have learned more about it recently, and actually had a long conversation with a couple of my cousins who are in college and both use that pretty much as their only social media channels, and they're starting to sway me a little bit. So I'm starting to think about maybe we should consider it, at least testing it, because obviously we do want to reach a younger demographic and try and build that passion with younger fans who will hopefully then evolve into our future season ticket holders and long-time fans. So it's something we're going to consider, but we're not there yet.
Gotcha. Any of you other three folks using Snapchat at all?
We have an account we're squatting on. We have plans to start rolling it out this fall. I say plans loosely because they're ideas more than hard set plans right now. But yeah, just what Jeramie said, I was pretty skeptical at first too. But I do think there are some pretty good uses, especially for event days, on ways you can help tell your story for games. So we'll see. Like everything else, it's going to be pretty low on my totem pole as far as social media goes. And if we've got time to get to it, we're hoping to start using it.
Sure.
Yeah, Derek, we're not on it either. We actually had a conversation. I had one today with our folks at the Mountain West Network, and trying to combat with them the negative connotations that come with Snapchat, and some of the uses that are maybe in mainstream media, that how people are even know that what Snapchat is. And so that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit, like how can we get in here? How can we use this for a positive thing? So we're exploring and investigating, but no concrete plans as of now to hop on board tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about it about 2 months ago or so, and for us right now, just being a small staff, it's not something we're prepared to devote to 100%. So since we aren't able to do that, we're not going to run it until maybe we sit back and see if somebody else can do it more successful, if there's a strategy that we can piggyback on. But for right now, it's not something that we're going to devote any time to.
I always like to say some of the best ideas are borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
So
creative acquisition is what I like to call it.
Yes.
I like that.
We learn from each other. That's
right.
how we all sort of get better and put our own twist on it. So, all right, good thoughts there. I want to jump into video. We're not just talking social here, so I want to be sure to get a sort of different view on some other topics. But I'll start with you, Katie, with you guys having the Mountain West Network.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned, you have that nice piece of hardware that's behind you. First of all, I guess, can you talk about how much content you guys produce, whether it be on demand or live streaming? Mm-hmm. And then where do you get ideas for doing the sort of creative ideas to creative content?
Sure. So basically, maybe I'll tell the story of how the Mountain West Network was born, and that'll help give some frame of reference here. So the Mountain West...
And Jeramie's got hardware just like yours, too.
Oh, he does. That's awesome.
It's a little friend. He wanted to keep yours company. Or she, I guess.
The fact that my little friend over my shoulder even exists in my realm of possibilities is unbelievable to me. I'm super grateful for the opportunity to be here and a part of the Mountain West Network to help get that. So in 2006, the Mountain West actually started the first, contrary to popular opinion, the first 24/7 cable channel that was dedicated to a single conference, before Pac-12 networks or SEC network or Big Ten network. And so that was an endeavor that we were proud of. It was jointly owned by CBS and Comcast. When Comcast merged with NBC Universal, CBS and NBC kind of went at each other, and we had some distribution issues, and so they closed the doors in 2012, I believe. And as part of that, our rights were really held up for having digital video. So as my role was evolving here, the only rights we really had access to were our championship press conference rights, and then any teleconferences, any audio that we had. So I would stream from media days and from our basketball championship, those press conferences, and really not knowing how to do any broadcasting at all. My background is more print and PR and advertising. That was kind of difficult for me, but we knew that we needed to really fill that presence, and that we were missing out on something when those rights were kind of withheld from us. So when the Mountain closed, we were able to renegotiate and gain our digital streaming rights back. As part of that, Jesse Kurtz, who was an anchor here at the local CBS affiliate for 10 years, he was the sports director, came on board. He wanted a change for himself professionally and personally, and so he came on board with us to be our in-house media guru. And so for the first year, we started doing more VOD content. So he would travel to each of the campuses, and we did basically a campus tour as our basketball media day that year. We did a bunch of feature stories and things like that, and then through all of this, we were able to partner with two great partners of ours, Campus Insiders, which is basically an online-only destination that's dedicated strictly to college athletics, and they've got some great distribution vehicles and third-party partners with them that have been great to work with. And then Volar Video, which has basically taken a full production truck and that technology scaled down to a 4-camera switching operation within a MacBook laptop. So that has been something empowering, that we've been able to deploy equipment packs to all of our campuses, and so that we could get into the live space. So Brian Tripp, who actually was the news director at the Mountain, came on board last summer, started August 1st, hit the ground running, and the three of us kind of tackled it with open arms, and about the third week of August last year had our first live broadcast that the University of New Mexico had. It was a women's soccer match. And from there we've had 1,500 live events in the first year. We originally thought that we would have 600. That was a lofty goal for us. With the cooperation of all 12 of our member institutions, they have really bought in and have really dedicated themselves to the live game experience, their coaches' shows. We've had some folks take it to their coaches' radio shows that they do during the football season and basketball season that they do in restaurants and sports bars and things like that. And then in addition to that, both Jesse and his assistant, and then with some of the help of the institutions with the institutionally produced VOD content and creative features that they're doing, we've had about 700 in this first year too, from last August to this current time. And across all of that, we've had 35 different countries have watched stuff. Over 16 million viewers have tuned in to Mountain West Conference. It's become a worldwide thing for us that is beyond at least my comprehension when we first started getting into this. So my role with them has been in helping get the content out there, working with Sports Labs, our host for our website, to post all of our content, and working with YouTube and some of those kind of things, and then really promoting the content. Using our social tools that way, since it's another digital medium for folks to grab that content. And then also just working hand in hand with them day to day with it, whether it's building graphics or switching and doing those kind of things, and really becoming, widening my role to a broadcasting role too, which has been super exciting. And because of the success of the network with having over 16 million viewers in our first year, and over 1,500 live games and 700 VOD pieces, we were honored. He alluded to earlier, and Jeramie's got a similar Golden Girl, but we were honored a couple weeks ago with a Heartland Emmy Award, a regional Emmy for technical achievement. So it wasn't for a specific feature that we did, a specific piece, but it was really for the concept and the deployment and implementation as a whole, which I'm super proud of. And like I said, that was not ever among the realm of possibilities for me as a college administrator, as someone working on websites and really online. But for that to really get into the broadcasting world has been great fun, and we're really excited about the future of it too.
Yeah, and it really has, the world of doing streaming and online videos become a whole lot more easier with all the equipment that's out there, and there's lots of different things that make it easier for you to set up 4 cameras and broadcast a basketball game and things like that.
And we've been really of the mindset to make it without a paywall for viewers, so people can come to our website to watch. They can go to Campus Insiders and watch, or any of their partners who they've teamed up with to get our content out there, or our mobile apps. But we really wanted to make it accessible to viewers and didn't want to detract people consuming the content in our attempts to build the brand. And like I said, it kind of blew our expectations out of the water, so we're pretty proud of it.
Sure.
Caleb, are you monetizing that at all? Do you have pre-rolls or commercials or title?
We do. So part of the Volar solution is that they have been able to unearth mid-roll technology. So we've got the pre-roll and the post-roll that we're able to do on our live and our VOD, but within live we also can do mid-roll ad trigger.
Nice.
Which has been super cool, and it's all cloud-based. So if we sold a sponsorship to Ford, and an ad ran today for a 2015 Ford truck, if someone went to watch that live contest next year, it could be for a 2016 Ford truck. It triggers the cloud, so it can continue to monetize itself. So we talk about inventory so much. And figuring out ways to monetize it, because really that's the end game. Our institutions want to make money, and the conference, of course, wants to do that too, to help bolster what we're doing to catch up in the crazy arms race that we're all fighting against. So that gives us great power and a tool that I'm not sure others have. And when we talk about inventory, it's kind of limitless. We talk about finite numbers and who has control over what part of the inventory, but really it's infinite possibility for us, which we're excited about too. And heading into the second year, really focusing on the monetization piece of it. The first year was we likened it to building an airplane as you were flying it, getting all the equipment out there, getting all the schools on board, getting productions up and out. But now it's more of building awareness and building audience, and then getting sponsors on board so we can drive some cash.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Caleb, I was going to ask you guys as an institution, and smaller, not quite a size of a larger school, but where does live video fall into you guys' marketing strategy, and how much content do you guys look to produce out there?
Yeah, well, my department doesn't handle the live streaming. We actually have a guy in our basketball arena that puts on the streaming for that. But one cool thing is a conference, and I'm sure, Derek, you talked to Steve Chen. They were able to get a trailer, and he has a group of people that work for the Big West that assist in running full productions for ESPN3. So that's something that we get to see some sports, like they pick a handful of games for me.
Uh-oh, I don't know if he froze or not.
Caleb.
Yeah, I think he may have froze, but I am aware of what he was talking about.
They travel, between Big West. Oh, did you not get that?
It cut in and out. I heard, I got the part about the trailer and
yeah. I mean, you can ask. Steve Chen knows all about. He put that whole thing together. So his handle's Big West MD. If anybody wants to ask him about that, but yeah.
Sure. No, yeah, and we go back and forth all the time. It's quite an undertaking they did, but very, very cool because they're able to produce games themselves, send them to ESPN3, and they're the ESPN3 branded look and feel in HD, and they're available out there on the Watch ESPN app, ESPN3.com, and all that stuff. So it's a very, very cool little truck they have, and it's students running it, which is the strong point too. They're getting the experience of producing the events themselves.
Yeah, and it looks great too. There's no loss of production value.
Yeah. I wanted to throw in, we had another question, not exactly on video, but I definitely want to be sure that I get questions in from the viewers. Again, this one's sent via Twitter to me. Question for the group: how does your social strategy, if at all, change following wins and losses? Do you set your plan preseason ahead of time of what you're going to do, or you just sort of go by it as it comes? So how do you guys manage wins and losses? Kelly, can I start with you? You want to take that one?
Sure, yeah, I'll start with that one. So, like everything else, we try to stay pretty agile on what it is we're going to do, but in general, it's all, for us, it's all about listening to the fan base, getting a feel for what they are wanting to hear from us, and if it is a loss, if the game's not going the way we want it, we'll start scaling back on our more immediate social medias, your Twitters and even to a degree Facebook. Just scaling back the amount of posts, making sure people are still getting the information they want with scores and updates like that, but not necessarily throwing it in their timeline about how the game's going, and then providing some sort of update at the end of the game with some closure. And then with all things, whether it's a win or a loss, and I think I mentioned this before, we see ourselves as just the biggest Husker fan on Twitter, so we want to represent that. If it's somewhat of a disappointing performance, we may recognize that. The best things a lot of times that we can do is wait till the post-game press conference, get a quote from a coach saying essentially that, and kind of reiterate that theme to the fans about in a loss situation how wasn't acceptable, we need to improve to get better, and stuff like that. So again, yes, there is a difference, because people don't want to be annoyed on social media. They don't go to Twitter to be reminded of the things that make them feel bad, and we don't want to be the brand that's necessarily throwing that back in their face, because they could be going to Twitter perhaps to find some escape from watching the game on TV. So we want to make sure that we're being aware of that and respectful to that as well. And if I may, real quick, someone had asked me on Twitter that it sounds really nice wherever I'm at. It is really nice. There's birds are chirping. I was just looking at the weather forecast. It's 76 in Lincoln.
Rub it in.
Beautiful, beautiful, Jeramie. Just beautiful.
The birds outside my office just passed out from heat stroke. So.
Lady Gaga's birds.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly, I'm curious, your thoughts on posting immediately after a game, whether a win or a loss. There's a couple folks on our campuses who joke around with me all the time about, following, teams that are in the Final Four and how they, studying what they're doing as they're going through the tournament and figuring out, when they're posting and how they're reacting and responding. I'm curious what your thoughts are there, if you let things settle, if something is a sad loss for you, if your MO is get something out there and act on it quick. How do you guys go about that?
My personal opinion is you always have to provide closure, because there are fans who might be watching the Twitter feed for updates. Mm-hmm. And if you aren't providing some sort of closure, you're not meeting one of your goals in social media, which is to inform your fan base. So I think you always have to do that. Now, each social media might have its different quirks. Facebook, since it automatically aggregates all the conversation nicely for you on your post after a loss, you have to treat it a little bit differently than Twitter. Right. For Twitter, especially if it's a road game and we're posting, a lot of times it's a post and forget about it, because we do try to read every tweet that gets sent to us, and a lot of times after a loss, it can be a little rough on us personally to read them.
Right.
Facebook's a little bit different beast. We try to keep a little closer eye on the conversation, win or lose again, but that way we can help engage with the positive comments, and not necessarily positive smoke comments. They can be critical comments, but as long as it's a legitimate criticism, a somewhat positive criticism, things that we can step in and engage with those to try to get those a little higher on the comment tree algorithm for Facebook posts, to try to help direct the conversation or guide it a little bit. But I think you absolutely have to post right away.
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of your primary functions of social media is to inform your fan base. And if you're not doing
In
that,
real time, right.
exactly, they're not going to trust you when you win if you don't at least address it when you lose.
Sure.
Very good point. Very good points. Sticking with the social conversation piece, another question that came in. I actually have two questions in the queue, but I'll get to this one first. As more teams are adopting the snarky method, obviously we've seen a lot of NHL teams. They have fun with each other, team account to team account. Where do you find the balance between the cheeky and stiff? What's the happy medium of knowing when to do that? Jeramie, we'll start with you. You guys have been having fun with the NBA stuff, the hashtags this summer. What's the happy medium for you guys when you're trying to lighten the mood on Twitter?
Sure. First of all, who asked that question?
It was from Alex Souza.
Okay, all right. I thought it was my guy at Espo again, because he's the king of snark, and he's awesome at sarcasm and kind of witty banter. I think we probably push the envelope a little bit, not as far as the LA Kings do, obviously, but we try to make it have fun with it and talk a little bit of trash but it's got to be respectful. It's got to be obviously tongue in cheek. It's got to be playful. You can't really. It's a fine line, but you got to be careful and not be disrespectful or offend another team, or you don't want your tweet to end up on a bulletin board in an opposing locker room. So you got to be careful with it, but we definitely try to have fun with it and give other teams a little grief. And again, at Espo is fantastic at that and being funny and witty but also knowing where that line is.
Sure. For the other three on the college platform, you guys see anyone doing that? I know with us being in college athletics, you're sort of a little bit more hesitant to do it. We have to have some different quote unquote rules, or I don't know if rules is the right word, but obviously we don't go that far. But what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I did this quite a bit during our College World Series run, actually, with the mascot account. Because for us it was. We're not usually on national TV, so it was a chance for a lot of people to see UC Irvine for the first time. So they asked a lot of questions about, where is Irvine? Why is their mascot the anteater? So it was perfect. A lot of people were posting things about UC Irvine, and if they were negative, I would tweet at them with the Peter account, and they ended up sending back the terrible laughing emoji. They were just amused the fact that Peter responded to them. So I think that's one thing for us, that the mascot account really allows us to be snarky and push the level, whereas our main accounts, I've been snarky a little bit with them, but not nearly the level that Peter allows, because he's technically a real being, I guess.
Sure.
I would say from our right. Oh, go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You first there.
Oh, I was going to say, at least from a conference perspective, it's hard for us to get in with the snark because we kind of have to be equitable to all 12 member institutions. And so that kind of pervades into, snark against other conferences. We don't like to do that really either. And there's really not a whole lot of opportunity for that to do that, so we kind of stick away from that if at all possible. And some of it's entertaining to see. I think if you do it smartly and do it tongue-in-cheek, and if you know that both parties are excited about it, I don't see what's wrong with that. Sometimes, though, I think that there's been some examples out there where it's been taken a little too far.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kelly.
For us, it's all been, again, I feel like a broken record a little bit here, but it's about listening to your fan base a little bit. We have a couple of pretty popular parody accounts within the Huskers community, so there are some times when we do have to let loose and have a little bit of fun, just because that's the way our fan base is, and like has been said, there's a difference between snark for the sake of snark and being genuinely funny. I think for official accounts, trying to find those ways where you can try to have a little fun, lighten up a little bit, and remember why we're all here. It's to entertain each other. It's not a life or death situation all the time. I think there's absolutely an opportunity for that and an opportunity to have fun, and especially if you can do it in a way that reflects your coaches' personalities, reflects the personalities of your fan bases. It's just a win-win, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to jump back into video, and this topic had on my list of things that I wanted to hit on, but it also came in as a question, and the topic is wearable technology. Anyone doing anything or seeing anything? A good example of some stuff with wearable technology, and I actually do have an example, but I was going to let the group go first, being the gracious host. If you guys had any knowledge, or if you guys are doing anything with Google Glass or other GoPro or other types of wearable technology out there.
I can speak quickly. We do have a pair of Google Glass. We've experimented with it a little bit. I wouldn't say we've done anything real creative with it up to this point. But we did attach a GoPro, strapped it onto Brittany Griner of the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA during All-Star Weekend a week or two back. A couple of the guys on my team that kind of managed the Mercury account worked with her to put that on during the All-Star practice and got some amazing footage of her actually doing some dunks during practice and an alley-oop from one of her teammates. You saw the ball coming, and then you saw her catch it, and her hands go through the hoop and dunk it. Some really cool stuff there that was a lot of fun. But I would say I've also seen the Sacramento Kings do some really creative stuff. I think they actually worked with Google and got about a dozen pairs of Google Glass for one game, and they had a broadcaster wear it, an assistant coach wear it. They had some players wear it during warm-ups, some of the dancers and their mascot, and then they actually pulled some of those live video feeds into their TV broadcast that night. So I thought that was a really cool use case.
Cool.
We've talked about using GoPros and having, for specifically our folks at the Air Force Academy. They typically have cadets during their football games parachute out of their planes, and I mean that's part of the Air Force Academy education there. So kind of strapping on a GoPro and having folks get an inside look of what that's like to fly into Falcon Stadium on game day. We haven't done it yet. I've seen the Wings of Blue do that themselves, and so that's something that we're definitely looking for doing in the future.
Sure.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
We've done at the Missouri Valley Conference. We've used our TV production crews have used GoPros. Volleyball championship. Right on the net, near where the up official would sit, we put a GoPro right there so you can see the action right up at the net, which is really, really cool. I actually have a YouTube video
awesome.
up there of that. But also, I wanted to make note of recently what we've done. We've actually acquired a pair of glasses, and these are called Pivot Head. I'm going to do a little show and tell here. These glasses, similar to, not quite Google Glass, but they have a 1080p HD camera right in the middle there, if you can see that. I'm not sure if I'm holding it up correctly there, right in the middle.
Yep.
But I actually got these this spring, took them to our softball championship and our baseball championship. I have added this video of the baseball footage to the showcase. I'm not sure if folks can home how this showcase tool actually works in the Hangout, but there's a video I just shared of how the footage works. 1080p HD quality, embedded microphone, and pretty much you just plug in a USB cable into this port here, and you can pull off the footage, H.264 MOV files, and they're really, really great. It's really cool. You just throw these on, and had some guys wear them in the batting cage, taking some fielding practice, some long toss. Same thing in softball. They took them in the batting cage and had fun with them. So really, really cool. Hoping to use these a lot more in the upcoming year. These are a whole lot cheaper than Google Glass, so that was the selling point for me. But I think one of the sort of give and take things with the GoPro, for example, I think it's really cool because you tend to mount those somewhere, and the footage is really, really stable. It's really, 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 really cool because the lens itself as well, really, really nice shots with a GoPro, obviously. They're wearable. They're on your face, so as your body moves, these things tend to move. So one thing to keep in mind, but if you're willing to take the quality of the shot that you get with it, it really turns out well. But these I actually purchased for $180 straight from Pivot Head's website. So you can find these on Amazon if you're interested in them and things like that. But I will share or throw it up on see if I can get it on the CAIDA website of some of the footage that I've done with them. So We are up against 8 o'clock, and I do want to get to our last topic here before I let you guys go, and that topic is infographics. If you guys are using them, how you're using them, what you're doing with them, and then actually, if you can, tell us how you actually create them if you are using them. So, Katie, I know we've gone back and forth, so I'm gonna give all 4 of us a chance to share. I'm gonna start with you because I know you have been doing them though.
I have, and thank you, specifically you and Chris Yandel, formerly at Miami, now at Georgia Tech, for kind of encouraging me to delve into doing them. We started doing them. Our web partner with Sports Labs helped us do some for our inaugural football championship game last year. We did a pregame and a postgame infographic that they helped us put together, but we really focused on those for the Mountain West Basketball Championships. And thanks to you, we did some cool stuff with those. Did some research actually on Pinterest to help get some ideas on how we wanted to get those put together. And I explored a lot of third parties to see if there were ways, because as you all know, when you get into those events and managing those events, your time is limited and your staff is limited. So I was looking for some automated solutions, but none of them seemed to make sense financially for us. And so I built some stuff from scratch using Photoshop and Illustrator, relied on our partners with NCAA Photos, who are our official photographer, who post photos for us after every game. So did a little bit of an in-game look with that. Took a quote from ASAP Sports, who's our transcriptionist at the basketball championship. So did a quote from a student athlete or coach, excuse me. And some post-game notes that our notes crew were putting together, kind of combining all of that information along with some key stats, focusing on those out of the box score, but keeping them. We built them so that they were square originally. My focus was really to drive them on Instagram more than anything else, and built a lot of templates for them leading up to the championship. So really the work that I was doing was more copy and paste, drag and drop, and then save and post on site, as opposed to building from scratch time and time again. We had 16 plus basketball games during our championship last year between the men's and women's tournaments. And after about game 3 or 4, they really started to turn around quick, and we saw some great traction there. So thank you, Derek, for encouraging me to get in that space and focusing on those. I think it's a great way for us to display content, to present data in a new way that's not so heavy text specific, and really present some sports information that maybe wouldn't otherwise see. And we're looking at using them in some other ways throughout the football season with our weekly notes package that our communications staff does, and leading into games, and then doing some post-game things there too. So there's more to come for that for sure for the Mountain West, but definitely hit that heavy during the Mountain West Basketball Championships in 2014.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kelly, you guys doing anything in Nebraska with infographics at all?
Yeah, absolutely. We started really getting heavy into them last year. We had a graphic designer that does web dev and some graphic design work too that would focus on those. We had it was a problematic scaling them out for as many sports as we had, just from a time management and work standpoint. So this year we are working with one of the online automated solutions to help out with that, and we're going to go infographic nuts. We're looking at, for football season, we'll probably even get into individual drive summaries and stuff like that. We're adding a Wi-Fi system into our stadium, so we're looking for ways to kind of drive some more content and engagement actually during games. So we're going to be going all in, pre-game, drive summary, halftime, post-game, all that stuff, and scaling it out now to multiple sports as well.
Sure. Caleb, I know you're more of a marketing guy, but you guys do anything there?
Yeah, I've templated out an infographic that I'll post for men's basketball following the games.
Okay.
And then we put that into our, I design an email that goes out to our fans whether they attended or didn't attend, but they get that in that email basically as their box score. Instead of linking to a box score, they get that instead.
Is that like just an email database that is through ticket holders, or?
Yeah, We can pull everybody that scanned a ticket and who had a ticket and didn't use it. So we'll send to two different emails to those two lists that are different, and then we'll send it to students as well that came to the games.
Very cool. Very cool. Jeramie?
Yes, we do. We hired a photo archivist about a year and a half ago named Ryan Wolf, and we're very pleased to find out not long after we hired him that he also had some graphic design skills and was an artist and photographer and really enjoyed kind of creating different types of graphics. And so we started to really utilize his talents this season to create graphics specifically for social, for Instagram, for Facebook, pushing them out on Twitter as well. A lot of times, I don't know if you can see this here, maybe. Yeah. Okay. There's kind of one he did before our matchup with the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he kind of took the stats, the shooting percentages of Kevin Durant, and compared them to Goran Dragic on our team. That's just kind of one example of something he did, and rather than just having a traditional matchup with two of the star players, really tried to focus on the stats and show that our guy is putting up similar numbers to one of the biggest names in the league. So he did a lot of those throughout the year. If we were on a streak, he would kind of look at our streak compared to other teams, or he'd look at something in our history of our 46-year franchise history compared to other teams in the NBA, and did some quirky ones as well with different artwork that he created of our players' faces. And so he's really talented, and we're lucky to have him and kind of be able to add that piece to our digital portfolio this year.
Very cool, very cool. Well, it's about 6 after, so I want to wrap up, and I want to first of all thank you guys again for joining us. I know there's folks talking about Sharknado on my Twitter feed already, so if you guys are interested in watching, I definitely don't want to hold you back.
I got to get in. Sharknado time.
I keep telling you and LV to do some Sharknado stuff, but our folks down are missing out on doing some Tark the Shark.
So, but to wrap up, if you guys can, I'm going to go down the line once again. Just tell the folks if they want to get in contact with you, your Twitter handle, whatever it might be, or an email address if you want to give that out, how they can get in contact with you if they have any other questions for you. So, Caleb, if you want to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a follow. Caleb Clark, UCI, it's
right there. All right. Jeramie?
Sure. You can also see my Twitter handle there. It is Jeramie. I'm also on Instagram, same name. Would love to connect with anybody interested in the Suns or sports business in general. And before I go, I got to give a shout out to Joe Scott at Athlete Helper, who was tweeting us during the Google Plus Hangout here from his plane.
How about
so
that?
He was watching the Hangout on Wi-Fi on his airplane, which I thought was pretty cool.
Appreciate that. Having a little go-go in-flight action going on. Awesome. Katie, go for it.
At Katie Cavender. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. And then, of course, you can follow the Mountain West at MW_MHoops, at MW_WHoops, at MW_OLY Sports for Olympic Sports. And then K Cavender at themw.com. Always available. Happy to connect with you guys. Derek and I were talking before in the green room, and I've mentioned it to Jeramie too in the past. This industry has been really great in bringing down barriers and for everyone really being open and willing to share ideas and bounce questions off of each other, and definitely feel free to do that, and really appreciate all you guys.
All right, thanks, Katie.
Yep.
And Kelly, go for it.
You can find me at KMosier42. It's over here somewhere. If you want to chat about the Huskers, cycling, just life in general, you can find me there. And to Tim McDonald, sorry to disappoint, but I am not faux Pelini. Can't come through with you on that one. But you can give him a follow, or you can also give us a follow at Huskers too. Love to have you on board.
Yeah.
All right. And for folks, obviously, you can follow me at DDocket with one T. If you type in two T's, you're going to find Darnell Dockett of the Arizona Cardinals. Don't do that. Totally different kind of Twitter feed. And you can find all the accounts that I manage for the Missouri Valley Conference if you check out mecsports.com/social media. Our social media central page has all of our accounts up top with some of our school accounts also listed on that page. At MEC Sports on Twitter, at Valley Hoops for men's and women's basketball, and also MEC Sports on Instagram as well, and a bunch of others. So I guess that's it. Signing off for CAIDA, for the group, the panelists. Thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek.
Hopefully we'll have a chance to do this again and learn from each other as we continue to all sort of get better. And good luck, everybody, with the upcoming season. So thanks so much for watching.
Hey, Derek, before we go, are we going to do a pro wrestling hangout now? Is this just going to keep going?
we should. We'll see how many
I'm ready.
stick around for it. Thanks for watching, everybody.